Hi everyone. This will be part two of the Lord's calling for me to do the deliverance ministry, serving of others, of God's people. And from the picture in the background, you can see some sheep. Those are our sheep, and some lambs we had a couple of years ago. Some of the sheep, some of the lambs. Wonderful things. And Jesus said, the Bible talks of us humans as sheep, and the Lord is our good shepherd. And Jesus cares for the sheep, his flock. And when he called me to do what he wanted done when nobody else was, this is what he gave me. It opened my understanding to and what he taught me over the last 25 years. So as I left off last time, when I first started 25 years and a half ago, about almost, I left off about when I went into Christian chat rooms and how that I met people there and people were coming in. And now, one thing in particular that struck me is uh, the confrontation I had, not with people in the flesh, but with the spirits that were in people that would rise up in them. Like, for instance, I was in a Christian chat room. Like, I know this is all kind of new to me at that time. And there's Satanist in there. Now, this isn't one of these self-styled type or Anton LaVey type. This was someone who was in a coven, conceived in the coven, trained in it, multi-generational back to Europe, to Germany. And they were mocking the Christians. And these people, there were several of them from all over the world, Europe, the United Kingdom, United States of America, were coming into the Christian chat rooms and taunting the believers. And there was one or two of them that were trying to get out of it. And people were trying to help them. But in this one particular chat room in time, there was somebody in there who was a Satanist. And they were taunting the people of God, mocking them, uh, pointing out all sorts of errors supposedly in the Bible and about God and about Jesus, and how it was just nonsense and powerless. And of course, Christians didn't really know how to react at that time. And I came in and I watched this. And I said to one of them, I just felt compelled almost, or just I wanted to speak it out. And I said to them, do you know your spirit? Do you know, you talk about these demons and Satanism. Have you ever met one? And they go, yeah, many. I said, do you know any of them? They go, oh yeah, I know them personally, some of them. And they talk a bit about that, how that they know them. I said, oh really? Then I thought, well, can you see them? They go, oh yeah, at times they manifest to them. And so I said, well, you can see them and they manifest to you? And they go, yeah, they're real. We serve them. And they do stuff for us and give us power. I said, well, can you see one right now? And they go, yeah. I said, there's one where you are? They go, yeah, I can see it. I said, oh, really? And of course, I was just being led along. It was all just kind of popping into my understanding. I said, well, watch it. You can see one right now? Yeah. Okay, watch it and see what happens. And I said something like this. I may have prayed out loud or quietly where I was. And so I did. This was only through typing, not through microphone at that time. And I prayed and asked the Lord to send his light and his blood on that evil spirit that Satanist could see. And I thanked the Lord for that. And suddenly, the Satanist in the chat room says, "What'd you do?" You can see the exclamation marks of, "What have you done?" And I'm going, I don't know what they see. I said, "What'd you see?" And they said, "He's weak. He's like turned into jelly. He's a powerful demon. What's happened to him?" I said, "You can see that's happening?" They go, "Yes." Then they said to me, "Who are you?" And they were taunting me, saying before that to the Christians in the room, and that's what spurred me to do this. Your Jesus is a wussy. He's a pussy cat. He has no power. He can't do anything. We have more power. You Christians don't know what you have. You don't have anything, blah, blah, blah. And then I said to the Satanists, "Well, you still say that Jesus Christ is a pussy cat? He's weak? A wussy?" And they go, "I don't understand. How can this be? How'd you do that?" I said, "Well, let it be known. Jesus Christ is not a wussy. He's not a pussy cat. He is the Lord, and he rules over all, including these evil spirits in Satan's kingdom." And that got that Satanist attention. It got my attention. It got some of the Christians' attention. Well, what's going on here? How come we couldn't do anything? So that began as the Lord was showing me stuff, that he was Lord over all, almighty, all powerful, ruler, as it says in Colossians chapter 1. And that showed me something. And I understood it. This is real. Because that person didn't know what I was doing. They were somewhere in the United States, if I remember right, in a chat room. And thus began the Lord teaching me who he is, his authority over these things, and the authority that I had as his child, as a servant of the Lord. And so as I was meeting these people, and demons would pop up. Now it's interesting, on old Yahoo Messenger, there was many font sizes and styles. I think there was like 98 or 99 different font styles. The Roman style, Italian, Greek, just the slant of the letters, the way they were printed, showed up on the screen, and just all sorts of nuances to them, differences. And you could choose whatever style and color you wanted, and size of the colors, and size of the letters. You had big letters, small little tiny ones. Normal ones are just gray and the right about size 12, said on there. And I noticed when the demons come up, some of them will be big, bold letters in black, thick lines on the letters. And sometimes if they're yelling more powerful, they'd be all capitals and exclamation marks and little stuff like that, devil faces what they put on there. And I saw the switches. When a demon would manifest, it would just start doing that. And I took note. Where sometimes you'd be talking to somebody, even non-Satanist, in the room, and all of a sudden their font size would change. Nobody would notice it. The size or the style would change suddenly. And I started noticing that the personality would change behind what was being said. It was different than the previous one who was typing and talking with the other style. And I began to realize a switch occurred. That person is no longer the one talking. Something else is. And then I would talk to it and find out it's a demon. And it would be up. Sometimes it wanted everybody to know it was a demon by being big and bold, letters and font style. But other times it's more subtle. And I got seeing this. And I started scientifically analyzing it, breaking it down as the Lord gave me the understanding and opened it up to me. And in one of the Christian chat rooms, there were several back then, there was this teenager would come in, and quite a few young people would be in there. And nice Christian girl and from a wealthy home in California. She'd come in and talk, nice, gentle person. And all of a sudden, she'd come in yelling and cussing and swearing and being mean and lippy and just mean mouthing everybody. And people would be like, "You stopped it. You said you were a Christian. Who do you think you? What are you doing? You can't be a Christian. You're just a fake. You're a hypocrite." And I thought, "Oh, that's a demon up. Don't they see that?" But so I met several evil spirits in people that would come up and manifest, and sometimes they would talk to me, even in, like I say, in the previous one, in private message where nobody could see. For somehow they knew that I knew they were a demon. And I would address them as a spirit. And I would interrogate them. "Who are you? What are you doing?" And they would boast. "Look at these Christians. They don't know what I am. They don't know I'm up talking to them. They think they're talking to a human. What they're saying, they're trying to tell the person that this and that, they're no good, beating the person up. Look at your nice Christian people. Don't they just love, blah, blah, blah." Accusing, 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 accusing God's people. And I would address them, and the Lord showed them what to say with authority, etc. Make them go down. Sometimes I'd bind them and shut them up, tell them to get out of the way, and then the person in the room would back to themselves, and they'd be normal again. So I began doing that. And then on that teenager that came in, was mean mouthing everybody, I addressed it as a demon. They cussed me out. And what I was doing had no authority over it. It wasn't being bound like a spirit. I said, "Lord, what is this? This doesn't seem to be a demon. What's going on here?" Then in talking in private message on the side, I found out this was a human part of the soul, different than the young teenager. And this part hated Jesus, wanted nothing to do with him, hated God's people, wanted to hurt them, punish them, lip them off, mock them. And I found out, I was confused at first. I was addressing it as a demon. It laughed at me and said, "I'm no demon. You can't do that to me." I thought, "Oh yes, I can." And it didn't work. And then the Lord showed me, this is a soul part, an altered personality. And this part, when I addressed it as a she, was really mad at me. He was a he. It was a male altered personality, a male soul part. And thus began my understanding of dissociation. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. And I found it was very real. And I started meeting this in many people, especially in Satanists. For Satanists program through trauma and split off soul parts to program that part, dedicate them to demons and ceremonies and rituals, etc. And evil spirits enter that part, and they program that part to be loyal to the coven, to the trainer, and to the demons and to Satan. To serve as like a enemy within, but it's a part of the person's soul. And I learned about this in a scientific way as the Lord showed me. And I found that every time a soul part came up in somebody in the chat room, there'd be a switch. The font style would change, the color would change. Maybe somebody talking in the normal gray, and suddenly it's black. Or sometimes it'd be pink, or red, or brown, or green, or whatever, purple. And that would show to me there was a switch. And sometimes the spelling would change. When the color and the size would change, it'd be from a normal person to someone who could, it was all like terrible sentence structure, no punctuation proper, and no capitalization, and some of the words were only phonetically typed. And that was a young part that wasn't schooled yet, when that part broke off when the person was young. So I began to put all this together, and I had lots of notes I took. I had notebooks, kept record of them, and I found out that many of these soul parts, alter personalities, went by different names than the core person. And later on, I found out when that teenage girl in that male part who was hated God, like the girl would tell me, my parents and I were confronted by the church pastor and the youth pastor that if I didn't smarten up, I couldn't go to youth group. I don't know what I did. They told me I punched the youth pastor in the face. I never did that. And she was hurt and didn't know what was going on. And then the male alter personality, the dissociated part, came up and said, I did that. I came up at the youth night barbecue at the pastor's house, the youth pastor's house, around the pool. And he was saying something. I got mad at him. I punched him in the face, and he fell over backwards and landed in the pool. And he was laughing about it. And of course, that didn't go over well in the youth group barbecue. And so the core person had no co-consciousness when the alter personality came up. And that's what dissociation can be like. It be full dissociation or partial dissociation. And I'll explain that maybe another time. But anyway, the Lord taught me this stuff. And I remember dealing with all this stuff over a period of time. I said, Lord, this is too complicated. I don't get all this. I'll never understand it all. I can't. It's too vast and too much for me. The Lord quietly spoke to my spirit and said, you do what I want done. It's okay. I will teach you as you go. And he did. He taught me through this and that and the other thing. So, and then I started meeting these things in other people. The demons coming up in people. Troubled, hurting people, Christian people who had given up on the Lord, been rejected by the churches. They'd gone for counsel, they'd gone for prayer. But their lives didn't get any better, never changed, and they were full of grief and sorrow. And I began listening to them, how they were traumatized as children, many times molested as children, even by their parents and relatives, or even people in the church, leaders, sometimes pastors. And they carried that memory, and they dissociated. Where in those events, the soul parts carried the raw event and emotions and were split off from the core person. And they were being held, I found, captive by evil spirits. And that's why counseling didn't work. Because we're trying to fix something from the outside by behavior modification and, truth and this and that in a sense. But it was rationale instead of on the inside where the events were happening. So these are some of the things the Lord taught me as I went. And then the first times I did exorcisms, I just would interrogate these things. I had questions that come to mind. I thought, well, how'd you get in? Who are you? And it would tell me its name. Or the Lord showed me there was many things I could ask. The weapons of our warfare are mighty in God for the casting down of strongholds. And the Lord started showing me many weapons I could ask from Him to be sent upon the evil spirits to make them obey. And the Lord showed me if I am doing His work, I could ask and He would supply it. And He did. And He taught me. And He taught me about the legal rights. There was some of the first demons I went to cast out. They said, you can't. We'll just come back in. And I said, oh, you have to stay out. They go, no. You cast me out, I'll be back. And I found out if they had an open door, a legal right before God, permission from God through various things that happened to them were done by the ancestors or themselves, their own sins, until it was repented, acknowledged, admitted, and confessed and forsaken and put under the blood of Jesus and removed, those technicalities no longer they're canceled because of the repentance, confession, etc. By the will of the person, in the name of Jesus Christ and by Him and His blood. Once they were broken, canceled, confessed, forgiven by Jesus, and washed clean, it took away the rights of those demons, and they admitted they could no longer stay. And then I found out there isn't just one demon. There's a chief demon with others under him to fulfill their assignment in that person. Each one of the demons in that little group has a different function to get it done. And the Lord taught me that. So, this is what I wanted to put. It's a little bit deep, complicated, I know, but it really is quite simple when you break it down. What's behind the behavior? Who is behind the behavior? Is there any trauma and brokenness in the person's life, which the Bible calls in Isaiah 61:1 and Luke 4, the broken heart, literally broken, shattered into pieces, the heart and soul of a person. They're being held captive by evil spirits, the Lord showed me. And those parts need to be found and healed and set free. And then those demons have been holding them in that captivity can be cast out and the person be free. So Lord showed me these things. I didn't, I couldn't read about a lot of this stuff. And later, I found out there was other deliverance people God called. And I started reading a few of their books. And I go, that's what I found. I found that too. And this and that. And it corroborated, it confirmed what the Lord showed me and added to what the Lord showed me so I could pick up some stuff that they learned along the way. And that's what started this. And I had to prove it to myself scientifically that it was real. And I did. And then that's all these years later, in many exorcisms, and through finding many soul parts, the Lord bringing healing and deliverance to them and truth, tearing down the lies and strongholds, getting them healed and then reunited back to the core person, to bind up and heal the brokenhearted. So now the broken pieces are now one with the core person, so they're not split up. They're single in their soul, and their mind, heart. And that's what, so this is what the Lord's called me to do and confirmed it over all these years. I don't have a big ministry. I don't want one. I'm just a servant of the Lord for individuals who need the help and need healing and some truth. And so it shows people they can understand why their lives have been like it, because of all this junk inside. And sometimes ancestral curses come upon them. Most often not their own fault. Anyway, that's enough for today. And God bless each one of you. If anyone needs help, get a hold of me.